Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. This is Rishabh from Ascending Techie, and today we'll take a look at two builds, one with an Intel processor and another with AMD processor, both around the $1100 mark. That's roughly around 84,000 Indian rupees. I'll also be talking about the pros and cons of going with each processor at the end. Some parts can be exchanged for others in order to save money or spend a bit more to get better performance, and I'll mention that as we go. So let's get into it. We are going to make these lists side by side so that I can explain the differences along the way, which will help you understand better why I'm making the choices that I do. So we are going to be using PC Part Picker as our reference. So the first part that we'll be selecting is a processor. Now, according to our budget, the processor that we should be going with is a 6-core processor. So let's first take the Intel processor. So from the Intel lineup, the 6-core processor that we'll be going with is the i5-9600K. It's a very good budget processor that gets you into gaming and streaming. So you're not losing out on performance, and it has integrated graphics with it. So next up for AMD, we're gonna be taking a 6-core processor, which will be the Ryzen 5 3600. Now the difference between these two processors is that this one is a 6-core 6-thread processor, while the Ryzen is a 6-core 12-thread processor. Another difference is that this one has integrated graphics, while Ryzen does not have integrated graphics, so you need a graphics card in order to run this. Another difference is that the Ryzen processor comes with a stock cooler, whereas you only get the processor without any stock cooler on the Intel lineup. Now, you'll notice one thing, that both of these processors have a huge price difference. This is gonna make a whole lot of difference when we allot this extra saved money towards our other parts. Now, since our Intel processor does not come with stock cooler, we'll have to get an aftermarket cooler. So we are going to go with one of the most trusted CPU cooler out there, which is the Noctua NH-D15. This is a very beefy budget CPU cooler which can compete with some of the best AIOs. In our AMD setup, we'll not be buying a CPU cooler as it already has a stock cooler. And since we are on a budget, this will also help us save some money. Now, in terms of motherboard, we will be going with the ASRock Z390 Phantom Gaming 4. This is a great motherboard with all the features that you will need along with good VRMs. If you require Wi-Fi and Bluetooth integrated in your motherboard, you can go with other options which would be slightly more expensive. For our AMD lineup, we will be going with a B450 motherboard from ASRock as well. Now, as you can see, we have only picked up the processor and motherboard, but the Intel build has used up half of our budget, while the AMD build has only used 1/4. What this means is that we can buy a better graphics card with the money that we save here. Now, the warning you see on the AMD build says that you need an updated BIOS in order to run the Ryzen 3000 series processors. You can confirm this with the seller whether the BIOS on the motherboard that you are buying is updated or not. For memory, on both the builds, we'll be going with Corsair Vengeance 16GB 3200 MHz RAM. Next up we have storage, and for this I'll be selecting a 250GB M.2 SSD from Western Digital, which will hold our OS and our programs. Since the amount of storage everyone needs is subjective, I'll leave that up to you to decide how much you require. I'll recommend going with a Seagate Barracuda hard disk, either 1 TB or 2 TB as per your requirements. Then we'll be selecting our case and power supply. For both the builds, we'll select the same case, which is the NZXT H510, a very good budget case with good aesthetics, and it comes with two fans. You can buy more fans to lower your thermals if you like. Then for the power supply, will go with the Cooler Master 650 watt 80 plus gold certified power supply, which can handle all the components we put in here easily. As you can see, the Intel build until now costs us about $720, whereas the AMD build costs us $555. Thus, with the AMD build, we'll be able to spend more on our graphics card. So, with the AMD build, we have $545 that we can spend on the graphics card, and since the 2070 Super from Gigabyte costs $500, we're going to select that. As you can see, our AMD build is complete and we have a sum total of $1,055. Whereas with the Intel build, we can only spend $380, which is not much, but we'll be able to get the RX 5700 XT from AMD. So let's sum up our builds. On the Intel build, we have a 6-core 6-thread processor, whereas with the AMD build, we have a 6-core 12-thread processor. Since AMD does have a stock cooler, we didn't buy any aftermarket cooler, but for Intel, we did have to get an aftermarket cooler. Both the motherboards have almost the same features, but again, we are saving more on the AMD motherboard. We have selected the same RAM kit, the same SSD, case, and the power supply for both the builds, which helps us compare both the builds better. For the GPUs, we were able to get the 2070 Super from Gigabyte with 3 fan cooler, which is relatively more stable in terms of drivers when compared to the Radeon RX 5700 XT. So with the Intel build, we have slightly crossed our $1,100 mark, whereas with the AMD build, we have saved about $45. Let's talk about the pros and cons with both the builds. So the pros with the Intel build are, first of all, they have faster gaming performance because of their better single thread performance relative to AMD. Second is that it has integrated graphics. Thus, you can save money by not buying a graphics card if gaming or content creation is not your goal and you want it for minimal tasks. The cons of going with the Intel processor are, first of all, it is not upgradable to next gen CPUs because the 10th gen CPUs have different sockets. Second is that it's more costly. Third is that no extra threads are available with the Intel CPU. That is, you only get 6 cores and 6 threads. This processor also does not have a stock cooler, so you'll have to spend more because you'll have to buy an aftermarket cooler. Now, the pros with the AMD processor are, first of all, it has better overall performance as a whole package because of better multi-core performance. Second, it is upgradable if you go with the X570 motherboards. Third, it is best for content creators and architecture students because the softwares they use take advantage of the multi-core processing. It also has more threads. The 3600 has 12 threads compared to 6 threads from Intel. It also comes with a stock cooler. It is relatively cheaper and a better overall value. You can also say that it will last longer because of those extra threads. If you go with the X570 motherboard, as I mentioned before, you can also take advantage of the PCIe Gen 4 slots, which can hold some of the fastest SSDs that are available in the market. The few cons of going with an AMD processor are, first of all, it has no integrated graphics like Intel, which brings me to the second point. You'll need a graphics card. Without it, it can't give you a video output. Third, it has slightly lower gaming performance, which is marginal if you take a look at the overall value that this processor brings. Don't forget to like if you learned something new from this video and it helps you while you plan building your budget PC. New videos are posted every Wednesday. Subscribe if you want more such budget build lists. Let me know in the comment section below. Until then, be kind to one another.